I let my own brother die believing that I was his greatest enemy, all because I was afraid to admit that the life I built was based on a lie I was taught in school. My name is Elijah, and I am 84 years old. I'm sitting here on my porch in Seattle's Central District, watching the rain fall on the gray asphalt, and the only thing I have left is the silence of a house that should be full. We spend our entire lives trying to be what they told us to be. They teach us how to read, how to write, how to add, but no one warns us that what they are really teaching is how to be afraid. They teach us to keep our heads down, not to make noise, to be the good black man who doesn't cause trouble, and I was a straight A student in that subject. I was so good at it that I ended up suffocating the love of the people who mattered most to me. Today my bones ache in a way medicine cannot explain. It's not just the arthritis in my hand joints, though they are swollen and stubborn on this cold Washington morning. It's a weight in my chest, as if I were carrying all the words I never said over 8 decades. Seattle is changing out there. New buildings are going up. People who don't look like me are occupying the corners where I used to see my friends. And here I am, a relic of a time that is being erased, guarding a secret that is eating me alive. I remember school in the 1940s and 1950s. It wasn't just about the secondhand textbooks that came from the white schools, with scribbled pages and covers falling apart. It was about the look in the teacher's eyes. They didn't look at us as if we were the future. They looked at us as if we were something that needed to be contained. Elijah, my teacher used to say, you have to be twice as good to get half as much. But what she didn't say, and what I learned between the lines was, Elijah, you have to be invisible to survive. I learned that lesson far too well. I learned to be the man who never complains, the man who arrives at the factory 10 minutes early and leaves 10 minutes late. I thought that was dignity. My brother Marcus saw things differently. Marcus was 3 years younger than me, but he seemed to have been born with a soul that didn't fit inside Seattle's rules. While I was polishing my shoes for church on Sunday, Marcus was questioning why we had to sit in the back, or why certain neighborhoods were beyond our reach. In the 1960s, when tension was in the air like electricity before a storm, Marcus joined the movements, the marches, the barbershop conversations that made my stomach twist with fear. I told him, Marcus, you're going to end up dead or in jail. Think about our mother. Think about the future. And he would look at me with a sad smile, the kind of smile I only understood decades later, and say, Elijah, what future is that you're protecting? A future where you're allowed to breathe but not to live? I remember a ritual we had. Every Saturday, we met at Mr. Miller's barbershop on Jackson Street. It was our sanctuary. The smell of talcum powder, the sound of scissors, the radio playing soft jazz or the city news. That was where we felt human. But even there, I was the restrained one. I listened to the men talk about revolution, about rights, and I shrank into the chair. I was afraid the walls had ears. I was afraid of losing my supervisor position at the docks, a position that had taken me 15 years to earn. The turning point, that moment you can never undo, happened in 1968. Marcus got involved in a local protest against housing segregation right here in Seattle. Things got ugly. The police showed up with that brutality we know so well, the kind that doesn't need a reason to appear. Marcus was arrested, and he needed an alibi or someone to post bail and speak for him in court. I was the older brother. I had money saved. I had a reputation. But I also had fear. My boss at the time, a white man named Mr. Henderson, called me into his office. He didn't yell. He simply said, Elijah, you're one of our best men. It wouldn't be good to see your name mixed up with those troublemakers. It would be a shame if something affected your career now that you're so close to retiring with full benefits. That wasn't advice. It was a threat wrapped in gift paper. And I, the man school taught to be afraid, I chose the job. I chose safety. I told Marcus I couldn't help. I lied, said the money was tied up in an investment. I didn't go to court. I let my brother spend 6 months in a cold cell because I was afraid of a white man in an air-conditioned office. The silence that settled between us after he got out of prison, that was the beginning of my real loneliness. Marcus never hit me, never yelled at me. He just stopped looking me in the eye. And the worst part is that he had a son, Andre, my nephew. I watched Andre grow up from a distance at family gatherings where the air was so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. I wanted to hug that boy, wanted to be the uncle who took him fishing at Lake Washington, but the shadow of my cowardice was always between us. I looked at Andre and saw Marcus in him, the same boldness, the same light in his eyes, and I felt a corrosive envy, an envy that they hadn't learned the lesson of fear as well as I had. I hid in my work. I worked double shifts for 30 years. I thought that if I accumulated wealth, if I had a nice house and a new car every 5 years, I would prove that my path was the right one. I wanted to show Marcus that safety was the ultimate prize. What a foolish mistake. What a devastating silent mistake. Old age doesn't arrive with a bang. It comes like a fog that slowly erases the edges of things. Suddenly, you realize your coworkers don't remember your name a month after you retire. Mr. Henderson died 20 years ago, and his company doesn't even exist anymore. But the empty chair across from me on my porch, where Marcus should be sitting with me now, arguing about the basketball team or about how the diner's coffee on the corner has gotten bad, that emptiness is eternal. The irreversible event, the final blow, came 6 years ago. Marcus had a stroke. It was sudden. I got the call from Andre in the middle of the night. My nephew's voice was cold, emotionless. He simply said, "My father is in the hospital. He doesn't have much time. If you want to come now." I drove to the hospital with my hands shaking on the steering wheel of my expensive car, which now meant nothing. The smell of the hospital, that smell of antiseptic and imminent death. I walked into the room and saw my brother. The great Marcus, reduced to a fragile body under white sheets and cold fluorescent lights. He couldn't speak. Half of his face was paralyzed, but his eyes were still there. I sat in that uncomfortable visitor's chair, the kind of chair that seems designed to make you feel every sin you've ever committed. I tried to speak. I wanted to say, "Forgive me, Marcus. I was afraid. School taught me to fear losing what I never really had. I thought I was protecting you, but I was only protecting my own comfort." But the words wouldn't come. The silence I had cultivated for decades had turned into a concrete wall. I held his hand. It was cold. He squeezed my hand once with a strength I didn't know where it came from and then let go. He died the next morning without us having exchanged a single honest sentence. At the funeral, on the hard pew of that Baptist church where we grew up, I looked at Andre. He was 25 at the time. He stood there, steady. He didn't cry in front of anyone. When I went to shake his hand, he looked at me with a clarity that pierced straight through me. He said, "My father always said you were a good man, Uncle Elijah, but he also said you were a man who died long before he stopped breathing." Those words, they haunt me every night. I look at my hands now, hands that worked hard, hands that were never handcuffed, hands that never held a protest sign. And I realize they are empty. I have a comfortable bank account. I have this house in Seattle worth 10 times what I paid for it. But I lost the only person who held the story of my childhood. No one else remembers how our mother used to sing while she cooked collard greens. No one else remembers the day Marcus and I ran away to see the ocean for the first time and thought the world was infinite. A part of my own identity died in that hospital room, and I'm the only one to blame? I assumed there would always be more time. That's the great trick life plays on us. We think time is an infinite river, but it's more like an hourglass where the sand is running out and we don't even notice. I thought that when I was old and retired, I would have time to sit with Marcus and explain everything. I thought he would understand. I thought forgiveness was something you could schedule for when it was convenient. But time does not forgive hesitation. Time doesn't care about your excuses about financial security or what your boss might think. In the end, the only thing that remains are the relationships you had the courage to nurture. And I was a coward. I see Andre sometimes. He drives by, or I see him at the grocery store. He's polite. He says, "Good morning, Uncle." But he never comes in. He never sits down for coffee. I am just a stranger who shares the same DNA and the same last name. I am a living warning to him of what happens when you let fear dictate your choices. Maybe this will mean something to someone listening now. Someone who's out there in the rush thinking work is everything, thinking that avoiding conflict is the same as having peace. It isn't. The peace that comes from denial is just a whitewashed tomb. If you have someone you love, but you pushed them away because it was complicated or because you were afraid of the consequences of standing beside them, change your mind while you still have a voice. I would give every cent of my retirement. I would give this house and every memory of professional success just to have 10 minutes of an honest conversation with my brother in Mr. Miller's barbershop. I wish I had told him that he was the hero of our family, not me. I wish I had told him he was right from the beginning, that a life lived in fear is not a life. It's just a long and expensive wait for the end. School taught me to be a law-abiding citizen. It taught me to be an exemplary employee. But school forgot to teach me how to be a brother. It forgot to teach me that freedom is expensive, but regret costs far more. Regret is interest you pay for the rest of your life, and the rate only increases as the years go by. These days, my routine is simple. I wake up at 6 in the morning, even though I have nowhere to go. My knees crack when I get out of bed. I make my coffee, black and strong, and sit on this porch. I look at my phone and wait for a miracle for Marcus's name to appear on the screen, but I know it won't happen. The dead don't call. And the living we hurt with our silence often lose our number too. I wish I had known that the respect of people who don't care about you is worth nothing. Mr. Henderson's respect doesn't keep me warm at night. The supervisor title doesn't hold my hand when I have a nightmare. If I could go back to 1968, I would have gone to that courtroom. I would have held that sign. I would have let them fire me. Because if I had done that, maybe today I wouldn't be sitting here talking to the walls. The loneliness of an old man is a quiet thing. It's not like in the movies, with big screams and tears. It's just the sound of the clock on the living room wall. It's the sound of rain hitting the roof. It's the realization that you are the last of a lineage and that your lessons of prudence don't matter to anyone. I hear Andre is doing well. He started his own business. He isn't afraid to speak his mind. Sometimes I see him on television, talking about the community, about the Central District, about preserving our history. And every time I see him, my heart aches and rejoices at the same time. He is the man Marcus wanted me to be. He is the fruit of the courage I didn't have. Sometimes I close my eyes and imagine I'm back in that barbershop. I smell the hair oil and hear Marcus's laughter. He's telling me a joke or talking about a new book he read. And in my dream, I don't shrink. I don't look at the door in fear of who might come in. I just laugh with him. I put my hand on his shoulder and say, "I'm with you, my brother, until the end." But then I open my eyes and Seattle's sky is still gray. The rain keeps falling. And I remain just an 84-year-old man in a house that's too big, filled with expensive furniture and cheap memories. I'm not here to give a moral lesson. I'm no wise man. I'm just a man who reached the end of the road and realized he carried the wrong luggage for the entire journey. I carried the luggage of safety, caution, and other people's approval. And I left behind the luggage of love, loyalty, and truth. If you still have time, look at your hands. What are they holding? Is it something that will comfort you when you reach my age? Or is it just something you're afraid to let go of? Life is too short to be lived according to someone else's script. School taught me how to read their script. It took me 80 years to realize I should have written my own, even if it had mistakes, even if it was dangerous. Now the sun is starting to set, though you can't see it because of the clouds. I'll go inside, wash my single plate, lock the door, and wait for tomorrow. Another day of silence, another day of memories. If you listened this far, thank you. Sometimes speaking into the void is the only way to feel that we still exist. If you have a story of something you overcame, or something you still fear, maybe you'd like to share it. I'll be here on my virtual porch, listening to the silence, and hoping that somewhere Marcus knows I finally understood. I thought I had time. I truly thought I had time. But time is a cruel master that accepts no excuses. Good night to those who still have someone to say goodnight to. Treasure that. It's worth more than any supervisor title or any house on top of a hill. If this meant something to you, if you felt the weight of what I said, you can tell me what stayed in your heart. I would like to know that I'm not speaking alone in the middle of this Seattle rain. I read what you write. It's what keeps me connected to the world of the living. Take care, and please don't let fear be your teacher. Life is more than surviving. It's about belonging. And I only learned how to survive. Can you tell me if there was a moment when you also chose fear over someone you loved? Maybe talking about it will help you avoid carrying that weight for 80 years, the way I did.